All right. So just gonna go back to the beginning. Sorry, everybody, for that. So
You got
this is a customer info session seasonal for the seasonal heat pump rate and also previewing the upcoming changes in energy efficiency programs. The agenda, just as said, start with the optional seasonal heat pump rate, which is the major topic, and then also looking at the current and future energy efficiency programs. If there are questions, please put them in the chat and we'll try to periodically answer them as we go. So the optional seasonal heat pump rate, as we'll discuss further, it's a two-tiered approach rate, which is a optional seasonal rate during the heating season, November through April, that is a discount on the distribution charge for customers that are enrolled in this rate. It's a two-tiered rate. One is the all-electric, which is HP Res A, and this is 3 cents per kilowatt hour discount on the distribution charge during the heating season, and that's November through April. And then the other situation is if you keep fossil fuel, that's HP Res B, and that would be half of the discount on the distribution charge during the heating season. And this comes with a caveat for gas customers, which is if you're on the gas heat rate, it'll be switched to the gas non-heat rate. And this is an additional charge of 20 cents per CCF um, on the delivery charge. So customers receiving the all-electric seasonal rate must verify the absence of fossil fuel through either an energy audit or we'll come out and do a physical inspection and we'll try to coordinate that with you. So this slide shows the electric and gas rates. So in the first column, you'll see or technically the second column is the standard residential rate. And the other columns are the heat pump Res A, which is the all electric rate, and then HP Res B, which is if you're keeping the fossil fuel. You'll see the customer charge is the same. The distribution charge, which is the second row, is actually where there's the difference. That's where you're getting the discount. So it's usually just a little over 4 cents, and then it goes down to about 1.5 cents for the all electric because that's the 3 cent discount. And then you go closer to 3 cents because that's the 1.5 cents off if you're keeping the fossil fuel. The energy charge and the energy conservation charge remain the same on all rates. Um, so going down, if you are a gas customer and if you have the gas heat rate, um, you will be switched from the gas heat rate to the gas non-heat rate. So the first column is the gas heat rate. The customer charge is slightly different. It's actually it's a dollar lower on the non-heat rate. But if you go to the next column or next row rather, you'll see that the delivery charge goes up by about 20 cents. And that's kind of the difference there. And the logic with that is if you're using heat pumps, as your heating source, we want you to shift, if you're going to use this rate, shift your heating load towards the heat pumps. Um, and I think that's kind of the logic there. The fuel charge would be the same on both rates, so it's really just those top two pieces that are changing. Here's
Joe. A few good questions have come in so far. If we want to attack those,
Yeah,
um,
definitely.
the first one was, does a working fireplace or wood stove count? And if you want to go with that,
Yeah, I can go with that. I don't think a working fireplace would or wood stove. I mean, is the question if it's if it's like a gas stove or fireplace, I guess would be
I'm
the other.
not sure DB could clarify that, but I think if it's just a regular wood fireplace, then you would still qualify because there's no
Yep,
fire fuel.
exactly. But if it was like one of those gas powered fireplaces, then you'd be on you would not qualify for the all electric.
Yeah. The
Um,
second question was, what if you want to keep your gas connection for future use, um, but have zero current gas usage? And the answer to that was no, you have to remove your fossil fuel.
Yes, exactly. You would have to remove the fossil fuel.
And
Uh,
then, and then the third question was when you refer to keeping fossil fuel, is that with respect to heating only or for any purpose? And the answer to that one is yes. You have to completely remove fossil fuel.
for any purpose, exactly. Cooking, heating, water heat, that kind of stuff.
And
But
then getting back to the clarification question from I think it's David Bonner was it's just a wood stove. So in that case, the wood stove you would still qualify for the as long as you have no fossil fuel, oil, gas, propane, in any form, and you're a fully electric customer, then the wood stove is fine.
exactly. Thank you. So this is kind of an interesting slide. So the DPU has actually mandated the larger utilities to implement similar type rates, a seasonal heat pump rate. And this just demonstrates kind of where the all-in kilowatt hour prices are in comparison. Um, and so you'll see very similar as far as percentage wise as far as the discount. But as you'll see, we're obviously a lot lower. So here, look, this is actually looking at the bill and how it will look. So this is before the heat pump rate, and this example is specifically looking at the situation where you keep your gas. And if you'll take a look, the top part shows in the meter section up top, all the way to the right, it shows what current rate that you're on. So LA just means that's the residential electric rate that pretty much everybody has up until we're introducing this rate. And then right below that, where the gas meter row is, is the GHR, which just stands for gas heat residential. And so those are the things, those couple of things will change, as you'll see on the next slide once we get to the on the bill after the heat pump rate. So the charges that will change as we discussed, but seeing it on the bill, it can be really helpful, I think, is the customer charge and the delivery charge will change when you switch to HP Res B on for the gas side. And then for the electric side, the distribution charge is where that discount will be applied. So looking at the same, this is the same example, just 1 month later, and it shows now that this person, they're on the HP Res B, and then they're also been switched to GA, which is the gas non-heat rate. Or as I sometimes call it, the gas appliance rate is kind of a good way to remember it too. Um, so if you look, as we talked about, the charges that are changed, it changed from 625 to 525 on the customer charge, and then it changed from 59 cents to 80 cents on the CCF, the delivery charge line there. And then down below, you'll see that you have that cent and a half off on the distribution charge. So that's where you'll see all of those changes if you do end up signing up for the rate. So you'll know, okay, yep, I'm signed up for this rate. I know why X, Y, and Z is happening and where it's going to happen on the bill. To sign up for this rate, there's a form on the website. It's a questionnaire. It's in the form of a questionnaire. It asks a few different questions, and it just tries to feel out, okay, can you provide us with enough information that we know, okay, you should be on HP Res A because you qualify for the all electric, or should you be on HP Res B because you kept fossil fuel in some capacity. So. So yeah, the form just goes through that. We take a look at it and then we make that assessment as we look at it. And that's one of the things that you would submit in this form. Let's say you want to prove that you have no fossil fuel. If you've got an energy audit, there's a place where you can put the energy audit as an attachment right to the form. So we'll receive that attachment. We can review it, and then you'll receive a confirmation from us about before we put you on a rate or as we put you on the rate, we'll send you a confirmation email that tells you which rate you're on, and then you should see it in your next bill is how it'll work. So. In addition to that, as far as some of the information and resources out there, there's a web page that's been created for this rate that kind of goes through a summary of some of this information. And one of the things there is a frequently asked questions document. And it's 8 questions to start, just some base level questions that may help you before we're happy if you reach out to us, we can answer any more questions that you may have. But this is just a good start. And then if there are some good questions that come up from here that are asked by a lot of people or something that we hadn't thought about, maybe we'll add some more questions to the document. So I'm going to leave my information, my email at the end of this presentation. And this is recorded. And so you'll be able to see that information and reach out to me. The other
Joe,
thing that,
another good
oh,
question came in. Um,
sure.
did you run any numbers on historical data to see how the still has fossil fuel plan would affect people's bills? It feels like it would make the overall bill more expensive.
Yeah, so we looked at some scenarios, and I think the kind of it's a really good question. And the next slide it doesn't have like all the numbers as far as like the averages of these, but it gives you kind of an idea of when it might be good to do it and when it might not be. Like, and I guess in a summary form, let's say you kept your fossil fuel, you keep your gas as a backup, let's say, but your primary heating source is heat pumps. The amount of extra electricity you're using because you have heat pumps in that discount is there at the cent and a half. It will mitigate though it should mitigate the that additional gas, that 20 cents per CCF. But again, there's also a calculator on the website. It's a downloadable spreadsheet, and I think we're gonna try to look into adding something right to like a web page. I think we're still working on that. But for now, there's a downloadable spreadsheet. You can put in like your actual usage numbers, and you can look at the different rates. You can look at HP Res A or HP Res B, and it will tell you your total bill and estimated savings. I mean, you take it with a grain of salt because it is an estimation, but it gives you an idea of, maybe this is for me or maybe this isn't for me because it could come out to be a negative value for you
Yeah,
if you're using gas as your primary and heat pump just for one room in your house or something like that.
yeah. The whole idea behind the rate is really to encourage people to move over to heating and cooling with their heat pumps. So if, like Joe said, it's a supplement, if the heat pump is just a supplemental tool you're using in a limited basis in one room or on limited occasions, then switching the gas rate will not necessarily, it won't help you. But if you're using it as a significant or primary source of heating and cooling, then the benefit is far outweighs the change in the gas rate. But it all depends on how you use it.
Yep. And thank you for that. I don't know if there was any other question, Olivia, too, or if that was the only.
That's the only one right now.
Okay. Um, so this kind of leads itself to that discussion, I think, here is this is kind of a little scenario matrix of. And the more green the row is, kind of the better it fits our situation, I think. I mean, if you are a all electric customer with heat pumps, you get to be on the Res A, which is the higher discount. That's going to be a really good situation for you. Um, if you have primary heat gas, and that's that yellow column there, and you have a secondary heat pumps, that yellow is kind of like, okay, I should analyze this and make sure that, if I use gas as the primary, you know, maybe this rate isn't for me and I just use the heat pump for one room or it's just in one zone and I don't use it a ton. So that's where, but if you use, in the second scenario where yes, you use a heat pump, it's your primary heating source and your secondary is gas, then most likely there should be some savings. Um, But again, it's for those situations, it is good to check the calculator and see, all right, where do I land? And so here's the calculator. So when you download this, you'll have a look at this, and then where you'll get to add information is down below in those tan colored highlighted cells. You can actually add your usage, January, February, March, throughout the year. On the gas side too, on the right hand side, and then if you look, that's the standard residential rate on the left-hand side, that scenario where you're adding. So you could add, your most recent bill, you could add whatever usage you want into those categories. And then it will mirror that usage over on the right-hand side, and you can pick from there's a drop-down menu where that is that blue highlighted column that says H row rather that says HP Res A. There's a drop down where you can switch it to HP Res B, and then it will update the calculations. And so you'll be able to see at the bottom where it's highlighted green is that total estimated annual savings. Um, so yeah, so that's kind of, and then at the top you'll see like the basically the different rates, similar to one of the previous slides. You can see the breakdown of the rate changes above, just for clarity's sake, so you understand where those differences are happening.
Joe, there's another question. I think on your previous slide, why aren't water heaters included on the chart?
Yeah, so I guess they're not included in so many words. I guess the column I would refer to as far as this chart would be the fourth column, which says, do you have fossil fuel? And in parentheses, heating, cooking, etc. We could update it, to say heating, cooking, water heating, etc. Too. I think water heating is kind of would be included in that category. So it would be kind of scenario four maybe would be the what you'd be referring to there, which is yes, I have heat pump. Yes, it's my only heating source is for heating, but my water heater is gas, and that's where you'd still be HP Res B, but that's where the fourth scenario kind of lines up is I don't have a secondary heat source. However, I do have a gas stove or I do have a gas water heater. And that's kind of where that would end up. So this is kind of looking at these are a few examples. Like I actually grabbed some customer examples for these just and it can be different. It all depends on your usage, your situation, the size of an apartment or a house or what have you. But these are some examples. So for the all electric apartment, because it's smaller, you're saving, you get the better rate, but you're saving, $155, let's say. But if it's a bigger apartment, maybe it's even greater. The all electric house is a big bang for your buck. Um, and then even in some of the mixed scenarios, like the primary heat pump that kept the gas, um, yeah, that's it's still an annual savings on this particular example. And then the mixed heating is a situation where maybe there's no primary, maybe it's primary heat pump, but they still use the gas significantly, I think is that example. And this still shows some savings. Again, it does matter for your individual situation. So I refer to the calculator because it could be negative for you if you use a lot of gas. If you've kept gas for water heating and for cooking, for some other third thing as well. So that's where the note at the bottom, if gas is your primary heating source, especially, you'll want to use the bill calculator to estimate savings before signing up for this rate. And we work with you too. We're not trying to charge you more at all. And I think if someone answers that question on the questionnaire that gas is the primary heating source, that's something that we take note of. And, we're trying to look at that stuff too, because we don't, it's not our goal to have people paying more. It's supposed to be a discount. So
Yeah, and I think, like Joe said, if you have questions or you're not sure, you can always call us and we can help you with the bill comparison. Olivia actually worked with a customer today that determined it was not probably worth going over to the new heat pump um, rate B based on their current gas usage. And if that changes over time and you migrate more to using your heat pump as your primary heating source, that you can reconsider it at that point.
exactly. Thank you, Pete. All right, so that kind of concludes the heat pump rate part of the presentation. Again, once I get through the rest of the slides, we'll have time for questions at the end if there are additional ones that come through the chat. Um, Happy to answer them. But this is just the second part of the presentation is to just go over some upcoming energy efficiency program updates. They're slated to start in January of 2026. So it's kind of going over the overview of existing programs briefly and then a preview of the changes that are coming in 2026. And I'm sure we'll do another customer info session that's related to some of these topics. I know heat pumps and energy efficiency programs are always on our list of info topics that are popular that we try to do. Starting off, we have the appliance and yard equipment. Not much change, not many changes here. We did add a heat pump dryer to this list at a $500 value. Um, and then on the lawn equipment side, the cordless yard equipment, we have the added we added a bundle. So if a customer buys multiple items together in a bundle, the customer will get $5 extra per additional item. Um, so it's a nice little bonus because a lot of times they sell Home Depot, Lowe's, what have you. They sell these battery packs battery packs that go into all the different um, lawn equipment pieces, and so there's a lot of bundles that are offered. So and we like that because then you're replacing more of those things. Another one to look at is electric vehicle programs. So this we have some flexible programs. There's a few different options to choose from. There's the There's one of the simplest options, which is a rebate for a ChargePoint Home Flex charger. And then you'd be part of our curtailment program, which is you'd sign up for a 3-year charging agreement with us, and we would control your charger during peak times, which is 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. And we would just lower the output of your charger to basically a wall plug output during that period of time for the 3 years. The second program, and it's one actually that we recommend people shift to after the 3-year charging agreement, which is the Connected Homes program. And this isn't necessarily an EV charger program. It's actually a connected smart device program. And I don't know if I have a list of the devices in these slides, but you can find them online. There's a list of smart devices that you can enroll in the Connected Homes program. And it just similar to that controlled charger program, it adjusts your devices during peak time. So a thermostat would be adjusted down a couple of degrees in the winter or up a couple of degrees in the summer during those peak events. And with the connected homes, you can choose to override that command. Whereas the 3-year charging agreement, it it's a command that you can't override, but with connected homes, you have that flexibility um, to override that command. And with the connected homes, you get, depending on the device that's connected, you get a certain amount of dollars per month. So for instance, the thermostat is $5 a month, but then EV charger is 10, I believe. So that's kind of the difference there. And then the last program, it's more intensive, and it's definitely for someone who has an all electric vehicle usually and drives a lot, is the separate meter time of use rate. In this program, you have to actually install a separate meter socket in your house for a separate meter that we install. It's a time of use specific meter. And you'd be on a separate rate, which you get charged a different rate depending on what time you're using the charger. So from 4 to 9, you pay a pretty significant premium, but all other times during the day, you would get a 5 cent discount on your per kilowatt hour for your electric rate. So that's kind of the brief overview of the electric vehicle programs at the moment. On to residential solar. So we get a lot of questions on solar. It's a pretty good, pretty sizable program. So the approved projects there'll be an incentive of 80 cents per watt. And the maximum size of a system would be 10 kilowatts. So your maximum rebate, if you put a system, a 10 kilowatt system, would be $8,000. But if you put a 5 kilowatt system, that would be 4,000 and so on. It's the 80 cents per watt. And the way this works is you install it, and then we give the rebate, and then we also have a net metering program. So the way that works is there's an 85% buyback on solar output pushed back to WMGLD. The way this works is if there's excess solar that your system is producing at a specific time that you can't use in your house, it gets pushed back out to us, and we give you 85% of the energy charge as a bill credit, and that's multiplied by the amount of kilowatt hours you send back to us. And the energy charge is just a specific line item on the bill. That's about 16 cents right now. It can vary from month to month a little bit, but so you'd probably get like a 14 cent per kilowatt hour discount right now for what you push back. Projects must be approved by us to get the rebate funds. For questions and document submittal, we have a solar@WMGLD email, and that's where you kind of kick off the process and get that moving. And our engineering team looks at that. So one of the things that you have to do right off the bat is a shade analysis has to show at least 80% that, there's 80% there. So there's a couple of places that do that, and it's listed down below as ones that we accept for that. So back to heat pumps. We have the enhanced heat pump program, which we rolled out, I believe it was at the beginning of 2024. And there's a couple of bundles which increase your rebate for both heat pumps and insulation if you're doing that too. So there's a heat pump insulation, which is an increased rebate. And then there's the heat pump replacing fossil fuel, which is an increased further. And then new in 2026, there'll be a heat pump with complete disconnect from gas on the property, and that'll be the highest rebate. And we'll in the next slide, it'll show you where each of those rebate values are, because they're changing slightly, they're increasing a little bit from the prior years. And the process for this is it depends on if you're doing heat pumps and insulation. If you're doing insulation, you have to do all the insulation rebate steps, which include a pre-audit with NextZero, hiring contractors, and then also a post-audit once that's done, and that's through NextZero. And then on the heat pump side, consulting with a BODE is always good beforehand, hiring contractors, and then the post-installation QA with a BODE, that just gives all the information for what you installed, and that ensures that your heat pump is cold climate certified and is good for the rebate. And there's a list on our website. It's the NEEP cold climate list. Usually you'll be able to find qualifying devices on there. And a BODE will work with you too. They're very familiar with all that because they're the heat pump experts. Looking at the 2026 program updates, the regular heat pump rebate, just bare bones, nothing else. It stays the same as far as the per ton. It's 500 per ton up to 2,000. On the next line, if you put insulation in as well, and you have to do up to $1,000 worth of insulation work to kind of qualify for this bundle. You would get 750. Actually, it gets increased from 750 up to 1,000 per ton, and that at a rebate cap for the heat pump side of 5,000, and then an insulation cap of 2,500. So you could, depending on the size of your system, you could get up to $7,500 towards that. And then for heat pump replacing fossil fuel, that's getting bumped up from 1,000 per ton to 1,250. With the caps increasing on those as well, and the total cap in the last column increases up to 10,000, and then the heat pump disconnect from gas is even a little bit of a step up from there. And there's some increases on that line as well. So the insulation in Windows, there's a slight change similar to other utilities. Most people don't offer window rebates anymore. So what we did is we took that $500 cap that Windows used to have, and we actually added it to the insulation rebate cap. So it used to be insulation was 1,500, 50% of cost up to 1,500. Now it's 2,000 because we're adding that 500 that the Windows used to bring with that one. So. And then, as we mentioned before, the heat pump dryer is being added at $500. So I think that's all I had prepared as far as slides go. But if there are different questions in the chat.
There's another question. Since we already got a partial bill for November and the new heat pump rate starts in November, do we get a credit on future bills?
That's a good question.
So the heat pump rate actually took effect on December 1st this year because the board just approved it after our hearing. But it captures, unfortunately, it's not consistent across the board, but it captures most people's portions of November usage, but the rate didn't actually go into effect till December 1st. So the prorated amount, we have no way really to know the prorated amounts for November based on reading dates. So the answer to that, there's no way to do that. But once you're on the rate, you're going forward, you'll see the benefit. And if you have a partial bill for November in part, then you're still going to get some benefit from it.
Another question. If the audit was done in 2025 and installation work is scheduled for 2026, do we need another initial audit?
That's a good question. As far as to qualify for, is the question qualifying for the rate, or is it more of is it a rebate question?
My guess is that if you're just holding over, but you're actually going to do the work in 26, you'd qualify for the higher insulation rate.
Yeah.
The audit that was done in 25 is current enough that we would probably give you the higher rate.
Yep.
And then another question, will we get a confirmation once submitting application that we are all set?
And I think that question is probably if it's to the heat pump rate, yes. Once we set you up on the heat pump rate, you'll get an email from us that's in bold. In bold will be in that email. It will say which rate you're on. As far as if it's a rebate question, usually those will take it takes about 4 to 6 weeks to process, and then you'll see it in a bill. And then if you don't see it in a bill within a reasonable amount of time, like that 4 to 6 week period, you can always reach out to us and see if there was something holding up your rebate, or if we missed something or made a mistake.
Yeah. And I think if you're going on heat pump rate B, the lower one that hasn't removed fossil fuel, we send an email pretty much as soon as you're set up. But if you're in and we don't have verification or knowledge that you have no fossil fuel because you don't have a recent energy audit, we would have to set up some form of an audit to verify you had no fossil fuel. So that might take a little bit longer.
Yeah,
And
and
if we do need to do that, either Joe or I will reach out to you directly to set up a visit for a WMGLD employee to come out and verify. And another question, what is the best way to schedule an energy audit? This is regarding the heat pump.
yep. So there's the Next Zero phone number is on our website. Um, and you'll be able to look it up on our website there. I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but if you go into if you go into the insulation section of rebates on our website or the heat pumps section, um, there should be some information, and then there should be a phone number about Next Zero, and then the number to call.
I
And
just put it in the chat
yeah,
too.
Olivia just added it to the chat.
Perfect.
I know it off the top of my head.
888-333-7525.
And then someone else asked, will this deck recording be available via email?
Yes, what we can do is I have the list of people who registered, and I can just send out a copy of the slides to everybody that registered, and I can put the slides on the website as well, just in case there's somebody who for some reason wasn't on the registered list and joined.
And I think most of the information, if I'm not wrong, Joe, is already on the website in the form of the frequently asked questions and the other information, right?
Yep, I would say if you look at the frequently asked questions, I mean you have a majority of the information that you'll need, and then if there's anything else that you need, you can always reach out to me directly, or you can call in, ask for me, or
Does anybody else have any questions? We threw a lot of information at people tonight, but hopefully it was all helpful and hopefully it's all useful to people.
all right.
Great job, Joe and Liv. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for
Good job,
joining,
guys. Good
everybody.
job.